It's Divas That Care Radio. Stories, strategies, and ideas to inspire positive change. Welcome to Divas That Care, a network of women committed to making our world a better place for everyone. This is a global movement for women, by women, engaged in a collaborative effort to create a better world for future generations. To find out more about the movement, visit divasthatcare.com after the show. Right now, though, stay tuned for another jolt of inspiration.
One just has to pick up a magazine or turn on a television to see that as women, we are bombarded daily with media images of female physical perfection, setting up the most unrealistic of expectations as to how we should look. No wonder female body confidence is falling, while incidents of eating disorders are on the rise. What's most alarming is the way this affects young girls. A reduced sense of self-worth can create anxiety, stress, even depression, causing relationship issues while potentially impairing academic and job performance. In direct contrast, Confidence in Bloom is designed to reinforce the truth and reassure every woman who has ever felt inadequate, unworthy, or tossed aside because of how she looks, that no matter her age, shape, or background, you matter, you are enough now. I, Tina Spolatini, a woman of substance, insist women deserve to be happy, confident, successful, and totally in love with themselves in their own bodies, just the way they are. Through an ongoing series of intriguing conversations with women from all walks of life, who are all extraordinary in their own right, we will embark upon a journey of ultimate self-acceptance and empowerment. Together, we'll share stories, laugh, learn, maybe even shed a few tears when it becomes clear just how far many women have come to realize how wonderful life is when you stand in your own power, feeling fantastic in your own skin. Sherry Cameron is my guest today. As a certified master coach practitioner, trialotherapy practitioner, certified positive intelligence coach, and studying metaphysics bachelor student, Sherry Cameron passionately guides people who long for more to ignite their authentic self and design a dream life that gives them the freedom to live and work with inspired passion. In connecting people to their vision and helping them in designing the personalized map that's right for them, Sherry is a proven tour guide to the world of passion filled with abundance, your GPS guiding you down your pathway to more. Sherry, hi, how are you?
I'm well.
Today we're going to talk about claiming your confidence and ditching the doubt and getting what you really want. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, sure. Well, really, this title came from that place of I just see so many women in particular, I think people in general, but women in particular that really are challenged with just self-confidence and feeling trust and faith in themselves and what they're doing. And it's interesting for me, the reason this topic really was important to me was because I had a conversation with my mom one evening and it really hit home for me. She was telling me, we were just sipping, having tea after dinner, and she started telling me, what have I ever done? Here's my mom in the twilight of her life, and she's saying, what have I ever done? I haven't done anything, that's really important or exciting or made an impact. And, she's like, Dad's trying to convince me. But she was really, really struggling with it. And I felt so bad for her. And, so that evening I was sitting there thinking about myself and I was going, wow, like, I don't want to be in the same shoes that my mom's in. And I started really reflecting on my own life and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. It's like, it's self-confidence. It's self-confidence. Like that's what she had, all kinds of things that she was interested in, but she was always like, oh, I got to look after the family. And, my dad still encouraged her to do the things that she wanted to do, but it was always like everybody else came first. And it really hit me that it was like, it's self-confidence. She didn't have the confidence to step into the things that she loved and to express the things that, wanted to be expressed through her. And I thought, wow, like, I don't want to be in that same boat in the twilight of my life. And when I started to look at it, Tina, I was like, and sort of doing some research, I was like seeing things like 85% of people have low self-esteem or lack of self-confidence. 4 to 5 women lack confidence. And then I was looking at my business partner and I, Nicole Mattice, we had a Facebook page, and we asked people, what's your biggest challenge? And time and time and time and time again, people would say lack of self-confidence. And it was like,
So,
wow, this is
yeah,
a topic.
it truly is. So what do you think it is? Like, just from the people that you've talked with, I mean, your mom and my mom are probably, similar in age. I'm sure my mom is a little bit older than yours. But at the same time, like, when does that, like, why does that happen? Right? Like,
Yeah,
I never saw my mom as not being confident, right?
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like, as I got older, I started to, like yourself, like, oh yeah, she probably didn't have the confidence to do that.
yeah.
Right. And even now, like when I talk about my podcast, she'll say, how do you have the guts to do that?
Mm,
Right. And I'm like,
yeah,
wow, like I never really, like, whenever I had a question, who do I go to? My mom. Right.
right.
She never like let me down. She never said, I don't know. Right. She'd always figure it out if she didn't know. So
Yeah.
how, like, why are so many people not confident?
Well, you know what? From all the research and all the work and my experience and talking to many, many clients, I mean, here's what I know for sure. First of all, I want to say to anyone out there who is feeling this, um, it's not your fault, right? Because I think that's a cyclical thing that happens. We start to go, can beat up on ourselves because we're like, we get stuck in, the fear of failure, or overthinking, or procrastination, or I could go on and on, right? Perfectionism, comparing ourselves to others, people pleasing, right? We get into all these things and we start to realize ourselves doing it. And then, it's that vicious cycle that we end up in because we're sort of beating ourselves up because it's like, oh gosh, like, okay, I see that I'm procrastinating. I'm seeing that I'm comparing myself to others. Why am I doing that? And then, because we're beating ourselves up, we kind of push ourselves further down into this self-confidence. And the reason I say it's not your fault is because really there's a whole physiological thing that is happening here, right? I mean, just fundamentally, what I've come to know is that our brains are primarily working within two sort of core factors, let's call it. Number one is safety, right? Our brains are wired for safety. So it's like, oh, if I don't do this well, like back in caveman days, I'll be estranged from the tribe. And if I'm estranged from the tribe, like I'm gonna die. How will I get food? How will I get shelter? How will I, right? So our brains are still primitive in that way. So something happened somewhere, probably way when we were kids. And oh, when I did this and put myself out there, somebody laughed at me, or I got in trouble, and so we're wired for that safety. So it doesn't feel safe to put ourselves out there. And then the other core piece that our brain works on is that repetition or automaticity. And so it's like we had to think about, oh my gosh, how do I walk? How do I take a step? How do I talk? Our brain would probably explode. So it likes to take patterns and go, oh, okay, here's how I act in that situation. Just rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. So I think our brains, just by nature of how we are as humans, have those two core strong factors running all the time. But the cool thing is that, you know, we do have the ability to change that, you know, when we become aware, when we start to really look at what's going on, when we start to do different things, to choose something different, we can teach our brains. Like a lot of what I talk about is saboteurs. And so we all have the judge, we all have these different characters in our brain that are trying to keep us safe. And that's in one side of our brain. But we can actually change, right? And access and move through our day, accessing a different side of our brain. And we have the ability to change those neural pathways. And that's what it really excites me.
Absolutely. You know, when you talked about the judge, I did an exercise with one of the coaches I worked with. And, you know, I was the client or the patient, and she was my coach. And she had me sort of go, not under hypnosis, but sort of in that meditative state. And she said for me to have like a boardroom table or a kitchen table and invite all of my I don't want to say personalities, but like all of me to the table in all the different, you know, aspects. So there was sadness, and there was the judge, and there was, you know, all of those part of me at this table. And, you know, she, you know, gave me a scenario that said, okay, now who is the one that wants to talk and guide you through this? That's the one that sits at the head of the table, like in a boardroom. And it was such an amazing exercise, because it made me realize there's so many parts of me that create my confidence, right? And then there's so many parts of me that want to shut that down.
Yes. Oh,
right?
totally.
Yeah, it was so empowering, right? To be able to separate the two sides of my brain and actually move forward with it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And what I love about what you're saying is it's really, I mean, there's three pieces, excuse me, that I will always support my clients in. And it's an acronym that I like to call ACT. And so it's awareness, choice, and then transformation. And so what you're really talking about that you guys were working in is this piece of awareness, right? Like really starting to get conscious and go, okay, what's going on? Who's showing up here? And whatever we want to call it, I might call it saboteurs, might call it inner critic types, we might call it ego. It doesn't really matter, right? What we're going to call it, but it's like first having the awareness that it's happening and that it's showing up, and also having the awareness that it's like that's not the real me.
Right. And then that's when your choice gets made, right? Like, who do I really want at the head of the table?
Right. It's like, oh, okay, that's one of the players that show up in my mind. And again, I always reiterate with people, this is gentle curiosity. This is not chastising, harsh on yourself curiosity, because I know, right? We all have these characters in our head. We all have the ego. We all have the saboteurs. We all have these inner critic types that want to show up and derail. And it's like, okay, thank you, brain. I understand you're trying to keep me safe, and I've got this time. Right. And there's lots of different tools and modalities that we can use to strengthen the ability to do that. But it's that a huge piece is the awareness, getting conscious of, okay, what's going on? Okay, I'm paralyzed because I don't, of public speaking. Okay, I see that, I hear that, I see the things that's showing up in my brain, or, oh, wow, look at me comparing myself to Tina. Look at me going, wow, she's been doing a podcast for this long. How can I show up? And again, just being aware, not going, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? Because there's nothing wrong with you, like I talked about earlier, right? This is just like physics, like your brain is doing what it's supposed to do. We all have this going on. You're no different than anyone else. So it's like, okay. So that first piece, like you're talking about, is really becoming aware with gentle curiosity, getting really curious, and then saying, okay, and now it's a different choice. And how can I build my confidence to make those choices and start to transform my life? So
Right.
awareness is key.
Oh yeah, awareness is key. And I mean, as a coach, we both know that that's the number one thing we all need, right? We
Mhm.
all need awareness before we can make changes,
So
right?
true.
Yeah, we have to be aware. We have to know that what we're doing is not working for us,
Yeah.
right? Because how many of us, and I'm still guilty, I mean, none of us are perfect, but you know, there's things that I still do as a coach, knowing that it's not right, right?
Mhm.
That it's not necessarily not right, but it's not moving me forward, right?
Right.
So I might be aware of it, but not aware enough that I
Yes.
can make a different choice.
Well, and then what you're talking about here is which is a big piece. Um, two words that are coming to mind are forgiveness, right? Like forgiving, I forgive myself for forgetting in this moment who I truly am.
Right.
I forgive myself for, woo, man, did I get, I would like to call it comparisonitis. Woo, did I get spun into comparisonitis there? Right? Like I wasn't conscious. I went into an old pattern. And so it's like forgiveness of that, right? And allowing ourselves to again be human. Because like you said, I don't, that's what I'll always say to people. I have a session that I'm moving through with a group of people right now. And we're working on what we're calling these inner critic types or saboteurs. And, the whole piece that we're talking about again is I want to say again, that gentle curiosity, that piece of, and they'll say, like, I want them to go away. And it's like, okay, here's the bad news. They don't go away.
No.
They don't. This is part of the human journey, right? If we're human, that is going to be there. That is how our brain operates. So they're not going away. But the good news is what we can do is be so much more less in that total sabotage where we're down the garden path of no return, right? We can strengthen literally, like it's like there's a way of strengthening your mental muscles so that you don't have to, it's going to show up, it's going to be there, but maybe you're not there anywhere near as long as you used to be. Maybe something that used to take you out for weeks, you've got now that mental strength and the mental muscle ability to, oh, that was just a blip in the screen. Got me for
Right.
a second, but I'm back on track.
Right. And also too, I did a training last year and we talked about all the saboteurs. And like you said, they're not going anywhere. But what she told us, and it's a little bit weird for me, but it does work, is, when they come up, like, you're in the middle of something and all of a sudden you've got that voice in you saying, you're doing it wrong or you're doing it this way. And you are like, not now, like now's not the time. So you have a little discussion with her and you say, well, in my case, it's a her, right? But I would say, go back to where you were. Let me finish what we're doing. And tonight, before I go to sleep, you and I will chat about this, right? But leave me for now because I know what I'm doing and I'm comfortable, right? I don't need you to help me because I know that's what you're doing. But go back to where you were before I go to sleep. We will have this conversation, right?
Yeah.
And that gives you, it kind of empowers you to continue on, blooming, right? And
Yes.
she's not getting left behind, because if you do that, if you just like ignore it, they
Mhm.
come back and they come back stronger.
Ooh, love what you're saying here.
Yeah.
Like number one, I love how you're what you're talking about here, because you're talking to it like it's a separate entity, because it is, right? It's not you. That's not the authentic you. That's not the divine you, right?
Right.
And so really making that separation, I think, is so, so important. And oh, there was something that you said and it's gone now. Anyways, it'll come back.
Yeah. And one thing I've learned, so, you know, how many times do I go to bed like exhausted and I don't want to think or talk anymore, right? So I
Mhm.
go to bed and I forget that I'm going to have this meeting, right?
Mhm.
And she will not let me forget,
Mhm.
right? Like she'll all of a sudden, she won't come back and say, hey, you forgot about me. But she will be running through the day going, yeah, you could have done this better, or you could have done that better,
Yeah.
right? And then all of a sudden I'm like, hold on, I think I said I was going to have a meeting with you tonight. You know, and I
Yeah.
have to go into that state, and I have to and the thing is, you have to be honest, right? You have to be on, because I mean, you're talking to yourself, right? You're talking to another part of yourself. And so I'll say to her, you know, like, I'm sorry I pushed you away, but at that moment I didn't need your help, and you know, and this is why.
Mhm.
Right. And sometimes I like will write it down. Like sometimes, you know, I don't want to have that actual conversation, so I will just write it down in my journal.
Yeah.
Right. Just because once you get it out, it doesn't come
Yes.
back.
Well, and it's come back now. What I wanted to share too, and what I love about this is that it's that whole piece around, um, like you're saying, if we try to avoid that, it's just going to get louder and it's just going to take over. So a really important piece to this, right, is that whole space of leaning in, because there is a gift and opportunity in that, right? It's like if we talk about pain, right? Is pain good for you? Well, off the hop, we just go like, no, like it hurts. If you have a backache, if you have a headache, like that's not good for me. But it all actually is good in the fact that it's giving us um, that awareness that something's up, something's going on here. I need to attend to something in my body.
Right.
I'm getting a headache, maybe I have high blood pressure. I don't know. Maybe, I needed more rest. Like it's giving us that trigger or that awareness that it's like, oh, okay, something's happening here. So there's that opportunity again. I will always reiterate with gentle curiosity to say, okay, she's jumping up and down. What's going on here? And, maybe it's like, whatever, she's so afraid of um, looking silly, and it's like, oh, okay, so I can see now that there's some healing and some awareness and some work that I can do there. Maybe, I can go in the mirror, I'm just off the top of my head, and do some mirror work and look into my own eyes and tell myself how proud I am of myself and how much I love myself. Like it's giving us that awareness that, yeah, there's something here. And what if those things that we're saying, ugh, like let's pick an emotion that doesn't feel very good. Shame,
Yeah. And guilt. Yeah.
jealousy. I always say jealousy because that one for me is really charged. Like if, I used to say to myself, if jealousy comes up, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me. Like, what kind of person feels jealous or envy of another person? Like, that's terrible. That chastising voice wants to come in. And I'm a human being. I would venture to guess there's probably not a human being on this planet, unless they're just a baby, but you know what I mean? An adult human being that hasn't moved through life and experienced jealousy or envy at some point in time.
And big or small, right? Like,
Right.
right.
And so, and that's just really charged for me. There may be a different emotion that's charged for you. And if I can look at that and just go, okay, rather than going, oh my gosh, I'm experiencing jealousy, like push that down, get that out of the way. And then what happens, like you said, it starts rearing its head even more. Well, what if I just went, okay, gentle curiosity. Wow, jealousy is showing up.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
that's when you do the comparison. But the comparison is not, it's not a bad thing, right? Because then you have the opportunity to look at your own life, right? And we all know that what we see on the outside is not always what's on the inside,
Sure.
right? So if we're jealous of someone because they have this big, huge house, right, and mine is just a little tiny, an everyday kind of house,
Yeah.
we have to look at that and go, what's really the difference? I don't
Yeah.
know what's going on inside that house, but I know what's going on inside my house,
My house.
right?
Bingo.
And like, okay, so that house, maybe they're not happy.
Mhm.
Maybe they live every day because they have to beat the neighbors, right? They have to have more than the neighbors. So they might be all happy on the outside, but who knows what's going on the inside,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, true.
Yeah.
And, you know, even in that, Tina, I'm going to say, and this is just dropping in for me now as you're saying that, you know, you're right. We can go in, like, say, social media, right? Everybody's got a perfect life on social media. And, we can easily look at that and get into, oh, well, what's wrong with me? Why isn't my life looking like theirs? But we don't know what's happening behind the scenes. But you know what? Even if their life is perfect behind the scenes, like what I love what you're saying, the invitation is like, let's go into our own home. Because again, what's behind the comparisonitis? You know, have I don't know if you've ever done this work around 7 layers deep. Like if you just go down that next layer, okay, so I'm comparing. So what emotion is behind that? Well, I feel frustrated with my life because it doesn't look like theirs. Okay, what's beneath that? Well, okay, I'm frustrated because I don't know, enough money. Okay, and what's beneath that you don't have enough money? That I'm not good enough to make money. Oh,
Right.
and you'll know when you hit that one where you're like, oh, there it is.
Yeah. And
It's
it's funny
not
how
about their house, their car, my car. It's about, oh,
I'm not as good as them, or I'm not good
I
enough. Yeah.
feel like I'm good enough.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
And
And
now,
that's always the answer, isn't it? Isn't that
yeah,
always, that is where everyone sort of says, oh my God, I'm not good enough to be in that house. Right.
mm,
Or I don't deserve that house.
yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah. And here's what I've come to know and what excites me and gets me jazzed and jumping out of bed every day right now. Because I also believe that we are in a time in our consciousness, in humanity, on earth, in this world, where there is a strong invitation for us to all show up. Like we've probably been in different circles, all of us, where we've heard people talking about this. It's like things are shifting. We are in a huge flux and a huge change. And I believe the level of consciousness is changing. And the world is inviting all of us, like, to really step into, and I'm going to say, not even our authentic self, but what's wanting to be expressed through us, right? Like what's coming from whatever you believe in, God, divine, the universe, like what's wanting to come through us. I feel now more than ever are being invited to step into that because you do owe it to yourself to express whatever inspires you and gets you jazzed. And on a bigger plane, I'm going, I feel it's so imperative for us to clean that clutter, clear out those lies, tap into our truth because the world needs you to express whatever is inspiring energy wants to move and be shared through you. And only you can share
Yeah,
in
I
the
have
way
to
that you
agree.
share it.
Yeah, because I mean, well, we don't need to talk about how the world is changing, right? We've seen so many shifts just in the last 5-10 years,
Yeah.
right? With there's so many things that are coming up that nobody, like, where is this coming from? How come all of a sudden these changes have appeared, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, if you look back to the last 50, 75 years, you probably can see that. But it's like the last 10 years has been like an overhaul, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, they keep saying, right, it's going to get worse before it gets better, right?
Mhm.
Maybe this is the final test. Who knows? Right.
Mhm.
But this is our time to really come out as who we truly are.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
That's, yeah.
feel it from my hair to my toes, right?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. And it's like our self-confidence, our saboteurs, our inner critics, our ego, it's going to show up. And it's
Well,
going
they're
to,
a part of us.
it's part of us.
Yeah.
Again, and it's like, but the invitation is there, and again, it's okay.
Absolutely.
We're all navigating through it. I'm coming on to your podcast, and I'm having that, what are we going to talk about? Am I going to say the right thing? Like, sure, right, that comes in, and I'm surrendering and trusting that what's going to be is going to be.
Right.
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 And what's going to be said is going to be said. And, again, I mean, I've done a lot of practice in strengthening what I'm going to call my self-command muscle. So moving to that space in my brain that's coming from more curiosity, creativity. But again, it's not that doesn't show up. It does show up. And I also know it shows up for everyone. And I will trust, even if I get off of this podcast and go, what was I talking about? I don't think that was clear at all. And then I can breathe and say, and what's the gift and opportunity in that? What's how many times have we gone through life and went, this is so horrible what's happening right now, right? The
Yeah.
judge comes in and say, oh, this is terrible. I can't believe I'm going through this. Like, it's just like so painful. And when we come through and out to the other side, I can think of a few instances, big ones in my life, where I go, that was the biggest gift of my lifetime.
Yeah. And we
So
have to look at this as that, because if we don't, I mean, at the end of the day, if we don't look at it as a gift and it is the true authentic self, right, that's going to burn us, right? If we look at it as, look what you've done, you've destroyed this, you've destroyed that, right? That's going to burn you inside, right? And it's going to take all the joy out of you, right? So find the goodness in it.
Well,
Yeah.
sure. And again, it takes up so much real estate. So this comes back again to the awareness choice, right? So again, being aware, it's like, we can really, like you and I were just talking before we started the podcast. And I was just explaining how I was moving through a business venture that I was working on in the recent past, and it just became so much push, 24/7 working. And, again, it's that awareness that I went, myself, my partner went, wait a minute, not this way, right? Stop, took a breath, and just the stopping and taking breath, we both experienced so many new things showing up because we made space, right?
Yeah, and allowed it to come. Yeah.
Yeah. And so sometimes, right, this this cyclical thinking that we're having, and we're not aware, we're not able to make a choice for something different, and we're not able to stop and surrender, right? It's in that we start to open up space, like whether it's energetic space or whatever you want to call it. It's like, okay, now I'm allowing space for something else.
Right.
Because I'm aware, I have the ability to say, oh, no, not this way. And I'm not in that cyclical pattern of beating myself up, which creates more of what, right, I've already created. So I'm coming from that place of gentle curiosity. I'm coming from that space of loving myself. I'm coming from that space of just allowing. I'm coming from that space of actually even leaning into it instead of trying to force avoid it, right? And now it's like, wow, I'm creating space. I'm creating
Yeah.
space for something else to show up.
Right. And we all know that saying, declutter, right?
Yeah.
That's part of it, right? That was one of the first things that I learned when I was doing my self-love coaching, was decluttering the mind, right? What thoughts do we really want to hold on to, right?
Yeah.
And what thoughts do we want to allow in, right?
Yeah.
We need to make space for that, because there's so much going on in our heads that we need to, get rid of the stuff that's not serving us, right? Like what
Yeah.
they're holding us back. Allow
Yeah.
that to be free, right?
Yeah.
Let it go into the universe or into the wherever you want to like send it, right? And make room for the stuff that's going to serve me and others, right? Because if it
Yeah.
serves me, I can use that to help others in the world.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and again, I come back to the awareness, that consciousness, like when we're on autopilot, um,
We're
like
not serving anyone
somebody
in
else is driving
autopilot.
the bus,
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
Of our lives. And we are really stuck in those cyclical patterns. Again, we all have them. We all can, become, let's call it victim to them when we're not conscious. And that awareness is such a big key. I was listening to something recently, and because I want to say this sounds so simple, what we're talking about. And even though it is simple, it can be like just to be conscious and be aware. That's work for our brain, right?
Especially for some of us, excuse me, that have been living on the autopilot for so long, right? It's
Right.
like, now you want me to actually think? It's not going to
Yeah.
work
And
that
be
easily. Yeah.
conscious and it's like I was listening to Joe Dispenza, an interview he was in recently, and he was talking about, somebody was asking him some variation of the question, do you ever get frustrated because, people are not sort of paying attention to the work, or, doing the work or learning in the way that you're teaching it, this type of thing. And he said, no, no, he said, I don't. Because he said, yeah, some of the concepts can be simple. And he said, I understand, moving on this pattern and this type of work for my whole life, just how much energy goes into being conscious, right? And so he's like, no, I so much am inspired by and commend people who are willing to show up and do the work. And I thought, bingo, like I feel the same when I look at people who, whether they're showing up to training or sessions that I'm doing and they're playing full out, or they're showing up to a session that I'm offering and they're playing full out, anything, they're coming to one of the summits that I'm offering, and I'm going, I just am so excited to be around people who are willing to step into this, explore what's behind the closet door in their life, be
Absolutely.
willing to be a little bit vulnerable and go, hey, you know what? Me too. Like I feel ashamed of myself, or I am frustrated with myself, or I feel like I completely messed this up, or I feel like I'm just not enough. Well, you know what? Like, wow. You showed
Yeah.
up and you're willing to explore that.
I love that. Yeah.
So inspiring. It's so inspiring, right? And that, again, I was talking about earlier about really showing up. And I think that showing up is, yes, sharing what's inspires you and what's wanting to emerge through you. And it's that piece of, and I'm willing to be vulnerable and mess up along the way, because that stuff is also going to inspire other people to go, yeah, this is what's calling me too, but I'm afraid. But I saw Tina show up when she was afraid. I saw Tina show up and be vulnerable. Maybe I can too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's such a gift in that.
Yeah.
Right?
And also vulnerable doesn't have to be like you're completely open and bare, right?
Yeah,
You can go in baby steps, right? You start with the little things that bother you, the little things that are holding you back. And eventually, when you're more comfortable, you are willing to share more,
sure.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know the first time I heard that about being vulnerable, I'm like, nope, not
Oh,
me.
hell no, I'm out.
Yeah, I don't do vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
I pushed myself a little bit at a time,
Yeah.
and, it became so much easier, right? Because then you realize that I don't have to share everything,
Totally.
right?
Totally.
Yeah.
I love what you're saying here. And I've often will invite my clients, I'll say, if I can see that sort of like there's something they're moving through and, they're going, ooh, I don't know. But there's a possibility too, because there always is, for a breakthrough in that vulnerable space. It's just that, okay, so could you choose to just be 10% more vulnerable?
Right.
Just 10%.
Yeah. Or just one, like, if that doesn't resonate with you, because really how much is 10%, right? But just
Yeah.
tell me one more small thing about that, and then
Yeah.
take your time, right? Just tell me one more thing, let it off your chest, and then you can sit back and take a few weeks off if you need to. But,
Yeah.
you can, because that will give you, like, once you've said it, you can't unsay it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so then it makes you okay, so why did I actually let that out? Why did I,
Right.
what? And then that's when the general, or the, the curiosity comes in, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, why did I allow myself to let that out? And what do I do now? Because I can't go back and say, Sherry, pretend I didn't say any of that, right?
Okay. Who out there has had the vulnerability hangover?
Oh yeah.
I know. It's like, oh my gosh, I think I went too far.
Yeah.
And then my next thought is always, and I can let it go, because I'm going to trust and surrender to what is.
Right.
But I've been there.
Absolutely.
It's like, oh gosh, I took
wish I
my own
wouldn't have
advice
opened
and
my
really
mouth.
got vulnerable. And now, again, but that's right. That's the ego jumping in and going, are you really sure? And you look like a fool and blah, blah, blah. You don't know who you've actually touched in that moment.
That's right. And that's what it comes down to.
Holy,
Yeah. Yeah.
she spoke for me.
Absolutely. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, Sherry, I am loving this conversation. I feel like I want to go get another cup of coffee and continue on. Because I just feel like there's so much learning in just talking and opening up like this, right? And
Oh my
listeners
gosh,
need to
love it.
understand that it's okay. It's okay to be yourself, right? You don't have to put on the front. You don't have to put on the mask, right? Take the mask off, be yourself. People are going to love you more.
100%.
Yeah.
And if they don't, they're not your peeps, and that's okay.
Right. And that's
doesn't
okay
define
too.
you. It doesn't define you, right? Like we get
Yeah.
so stuck in believing that what other people think is our measure of value.
Absolutely.
I just finished, as you know, you were on it. We had a lovely conversation on the Empowered You Summit at the end of September. And there's always a theme at these events. I don't know what it's going to be. It comes out through the speakers. And that one was really go into your body. Your body knows. The answers are always in there. That's where your value is. That's where your worth is. It's in you. And so the more we can tap into that, right?
Yeah.
The stronger we are. Your value is not outside of you.
No. And we always look outside to know our value, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the first thing. I remember when I was starting with my, life coaching and getting myself on track. I remember someone, my coach gave me a question, and I, texted all the people that I know that I'm close with. And how would you answer this question about me? Right. And so when I went back to my coach was like, that's not what I'm looking for. And I'm like, but look at, so and so says I'm this and so says I'm that. And she's like, I don't care what anyone else thinks. I want to know what you think. And
Right.
that hit me like a ton of bricks.
Well,
Right?
and then this is probably a whole other show, but you can get into, oh, wow,
Yeah.
I've never even
I
contemplated
don't look at
that, 'cause
myself
I've
as a
been,
person.
right. I've been so outside of myself for so long. Who am I?
Yeah.
I actually don't know. And it's
Yeah.
like, yay, time
Yeah.
for
She
worry.
was so excited. And I was
Right?
like,
Yeah.
how can you be excited for me? I feel completely diminished inside, right? Like I was like, I don't know what I think about myself. I
Mm,
don't know who I am.
mm,
That's why I'm here, for you to tell
yes.
me.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's not for anyone to say.
No.
Yes. Love it.
Yeah. I love that. Anyway, thank you so much for being here today. We talked about gentle curiosity a ton, but
Mhm.
what can you tell our listeners if they need help finding who they are? What can you tell them?
Yeah, I think, okay, so what's coming in for me right now is what I would say was a big lesson for me, which was whatever wants to come up, whatever emotions want to show up, the invitation is to lean in, feel those, yes, with gentle curiosity. And what if you could love yourself in that, no matter what it is, shame, guilt, jealousy, whatever the icky emotion is? What if you could lean into that and just go, there's nothing wrong, there's nothing bad. And this is an invitation for me to explore my own evolution and growth. No
I love
heat,
that.
no judgment.
Awesome. I absolutely love that. How can the listeners get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can get in touch with me on Facebook at The Pathway to More. And you can get in touch with me on LinkedIn. I believe you'll have the links and whatnot
I will, yes.
under just Sherry Cameron on LinkedIn. And yeah, I'd be excited to chat.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sherry.
Yeah, thank you. This was a juicy, lovely conversation.
It sure was.
Confidence in Bloom is a celebration of self-love, a confirmation that even though you may not look like a screen star or a supermodel, they don't even look like that. You are an amazing, desirable, brilliant, gorgeous, talented woman. We offer unconditional love to our partners, our children, our extended family, even our pets. It's high time we got out of our own way and learned to unconditionally love ourselves. In Full Bloom Styling and Coaching offers an online program combined with one-on-one coaching in confidence building, personal branding, and creating your signature fashion look. Chic definitely does come in every shape. So if you want something to believe in, start with yourself. If you'd like to be a guest here on Confidence in Bloom, contact me through Instagram at infobloomstyling, by email, tina@infobloomstyling.com, or through the Divas That Care website.
Thanks for listening. This show was brought to you by Divas That Care. Connect with us on Facebook, on Instagram, and of course on divasthatcare.com, where you can subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss a thing.